All right, welcome everyone to episode 11 of the Kota Capper College Football Central show presented by the Kota Sports Gaming Network. A little bit different show today. We're actually recording on Halloween. As you can see, Beast in the Halloween get up today. So we got a couple cappers who have kids that wanted to go trick-or-treating with them, and we had another one who wanted to help hand out candy for trick-or-treating. So we're kind of shifting a little bit, but nonetheless, we're here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's get started. My name is Kyle Kovas, and joining me, we have the co-host of the Gabacho Baracho Soccer Podcast and an avid Husker fan. We got Mr. Corey Adair. We got the Michigan State man himself, and today it looks like he's a naval pilot, it looks like. We got Mr. Beast Picks, and joining for the first part of the show, he can't stay for all because this man is about as busy as they come, but we got him at least for the first part of the show. We're happy about that. We got, you know him on Twitter. I guarantee you do. We got Randy Vision. Boys, how are we doing today?
I think we're doing good. I would have to say, I'm fired up. We got a little Halloween show going. I think the vibes are high. Big week of college football, man.
Yeah, happy to be here. It's a very big weekend for Missouri. But there's so many. The slate just across the board is awesome. So I'm excited to probably go sit at a bar and just watch football for 10 straight hours.
Yeah. A great weekend to do it for sure. Great slate this weekend.
Oh yeah, that Missouri Georgia matchup. That's a great matchup this weekend. And you know, my Huskers play in East Lansing, and some crazy stuff happens every time we go to East Lansing. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
Absolutely, yeah. And Hawks play at Wrigley.
I was gonna say, I kind of forgot that game was happening at Wrigley until you guys brought it up in the chat. That's kind of a fun, kind of outdoor game, right?
It's a fun outdoor game, but that game is going to stink.
It could be game of the year.
Game.
Hey, we need to think about placing that one under game of the year watch. We got, what is 29.5? That's special. Like that's unbelievable.
Well, that's a true Sickos Committee game of the year candidate.
Yeah, if you don't like that, you don't like football.
Isn't it when they play at Wrigley, don't they only go into one end? Like I can't remember. There was something weird about it because the field's too short, isn't there?
Yeah, there's not a 50-yard line. I think it goes like from the 40 to the other 40. So I think it's only like a 90-yard because it goes from left field to right field, which I think is about 90 yards. So
and the total's still 31 right now.
And the total's still 29.5.
I didn't even know about that element of it. That's incredible.
Yeah. But hey, Brian Ferentz, the bad man, people can talk all they want about Iowa. They can talk all they want about Kirk. I don't give a shit. The bad man is gone next year. He's gone. He's out of the program. He's donezo. He's can go pack a bag and live in Costa Rica for all I give a shit. He is away from the Hawkeye football program. We can only go up from here.
True. When I saw that news come in, the first thought I had is I'm like, dude, somewhere Kyle is just like fist pumping in the air. Like, because you're right. It's been years of just disgusting offenses. But I think you're right. It probably means Kirk's out too. I would be shocked if he didn't leave after this year. He's got to be up there in age. What is he, like, close to 70 or over 70?
He's over 70 because he's been coaching since I've been alive. So
yeah, he's well past retirement age. He's well past retirement.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, from people were talking about him potentially retiring going into this year. So, with his son going out, the writing's on the wall, I guess. Maybe he comes back for one more year just to try to like snub people and say, oh, we had another good year. It wasn't Brian's fault type of thing and then retire. But I think he's done it after the end of the year.
His body language is making it seem like he's kind of just checked out. He's just ready to finish off the season with the people he's got. And then after that, I think they're just going to kind of move on.
Yeah.
But all right, gentlemen. Well, we got a lot to talk about here before Randy has to hop off. So let's do a trivia question. So every show I start off with a trivia question for you guys, and we'll see how you guys do. So this is college football playoff related. So I got to looking at the previous college football playoffs, the semifinals, the finals, and I was looking up stats for it, and then something kind of stood out to me that I wanted to bring to you guys' attention. So the trivia question is, In the college football playoff era, it started in 2014-15 to now, what quarterback has passed for the most yards in the national championship game? Not semifinals, the national championship game in the college football playoff era. Who has passed for the most yards in the national championship game? So I will give you time really quick to think about it while I do our ad read. The Kota Capper College Football Central Show is sponsored by Better Edge. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace that is legal in 45 different states, and it operates like a marketplace. If you're curious how that works, let me just give you an example here. Let's use the Missouri-Georgia game this weekend. We got a big Missouri fan here that will probably be watching and betting on this game. Let's just say, for example, somebody in the platform wants to bet Missouri money line, puts $10 on that line. Another person in the platform likes Georgia money line, and they put $10 on that line. Boom, you now got an exchange because it's person to person and that person to sportsbook. That's what makes it legal in 45 different states. And the cool thing about Better Edge, we've said it numerous times, is if you don't like a line, you can make your own line. And if somebody else is on the other side of you, you get that line. What other sportsbook do you know that you can create your own line sites like alt spreads where you have to pay more juice and stuff like that? And speaking of juice, Better Edge doesn't have that at all. They're always minus 100, plus 100. You get a much higher payback for the users. They have competition such as Battle Royale, Survivor, Chaser. It keeps things competitive, just like a DraftKings or a FanDuel does. And then it also incorporates social media. You can go post your picks and people can fade your picks to make an order or tail your picks as they like it. We love Better Edge here at the network. Go to their website, www.betteredge.com. Use promo code Kyle, Corey, Beast, any of those promo codes, you get $20 added to your account. I mean, that is free money. You put $20 in, you get $20 added to your account, and they have a promo going right now where if you win a bet, you will receive a free Better Edge hat. So you get free merch with just a basic win of a bet. So again, we love Better Edge for that. www.betteredge.com. So gentlemen, again, trivia question for this week. In the college football playoff era, what quarterback has passed for the most yards in the national championship game? Again, not semifinals, because we all know that was Joe Burrow when he lit up Oklahoma, so that one would be too easy. Just the national championship game. Who has passed for the most yards? Beast, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go Deshaun Watson. I think he may have had a big game in one of those Clemson-Bama matchups, but specifically, the one that we all remember where he threw the touchdown to Renfro. I think he had to have been up there in yards, so I think we're going to go with Deshaun Watson, the massage parlor king himself.
Sounds good. Corey, who do you think it is?
I don't know. I was gonna go with Burrow, so we're kind of just grasping for straws. I'll go Trevor Lawrence, I guess. I'll go Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Randy, who do you got?
I think it's something sneaky because I was also thinking Burrow because that game had a lot of points, but I think it's gonna be the very first one, like Cardell Jones. I think was he the quarterback at Ohio State when they won the first one? That's who I'm gonna go with, Cardell Jones.
Yeah, that's a good.
Okay, sounds good. So this quarterback in the national championship game passed for 464 yards in a win. And actually, you guys are all wrong. Mac Jones against Ohio State in 2021.
Oh, that's filthy. That's disgusting.
That is so gross.
That's illegal.
I gotta be honest, that wasn't even on my radar. Maybe we just all disrespect Mac Jones so much because he's kind of been relatively mid in the pros, but gosh, I didn't realize it was that big of a game. I knew they played well that game, obviously, but sheesh.
Dude, he's easily the least dynamic quarterback to make it to the national championship game.
I don't think I respected him that much, and then he did that because I remember after the game I was like, is this team that good or am I just that stupid? I don't get it how it happened, but then I don't know. I mean, he tore it up the whole year, obviously, so
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, for a guy who actually had a relatively solid year that year, no matter what, nobody could convince me he was that good. And he had a very solid season.
Yep.
Yeah, he really didn't. I remember the whole argument, like the whole season, because people were like, "Oh, that he might be the one that holds him back," because you just came off of the running quarterbacks that they had before. So it was like, "Oh, if they don't do it, it's because Mac." And then I I remember like half that year, the whole thing was like, well, the analytics say this Mac Jones offense is better than like the last 5 years offense. And it was like, how is that possible? Like what's going on right now?
Yeah, I remember those. I remember those metrics coming up on the screen too, all the time. They did it like weekly. They would show you that stuff, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't believe in it.
Yep. And actually, that was a sneaky question because I asked that to 8 other cappers just to kind of get a feel. None of them got it right.
Wow,
So,
yeah.
but they all did guess like Burrow or Watson was a popular guess. Lawrence was a popular guess. But yeah, Mac Jones lit it up against. And I think I think Alabama won pretty handily that national championship, if I remember correctly.
Probably.
I mean, if he threw for 500 yards, I would think so.
Yeah. No kidding.
So, all right, boys, sounds good. Well, hey, college football playoff rankings just came out, so we're going to get an instant reaction. We haven't really talked about it much in the chat. I mean, this is as raw as it gets. So let's do it in chunks here. Let's start with the bottom and then work our way to the top because I know we got a little bit of thoughts for everybody. But yeah, just give like any overall thoughts you got. But let's start with 25 through 15. So at number 25, we got Air Force coming in the Mountain West, undefeated Air Force, mind you. And then Tulane at 24 is the highest group of 5 team ranked at number 24, followed by Kansas State at 23, Oklahoma State at 22, Kansas at 21, USC at 20, UCLA at 19, Utah at 18, Tennessee 17, Oregon State 16, Notre Dame 15. I guess my overall thoughts just right there, that's like 4 or 5 Pac-12 teams. Just right off the bat. I mean, the Pac-12, any of those wins against those teams, you're going to get ranked higher. You're going to get ranked really, really high. So that's why I'd like the other 2 Pac-12 teams are as high as they are, as they beat a good chunk of those teams already. So that's just right off the bat. What I see is I see 6 Pac-12 teams just right there. Beast, any overall thoughts about this chunk of the play of the rankings?
I gotta say, I love Tulane getting a little shout out. As our top group of 5 team. I'm always a fan of them, and their fans go hard down there. Every time you watch, it feels like their fans are really locked in on those games. I know that they have the 1 loss, which is going to kind of hold them back, but I'd love to see how high they could, kind of go in these rankings. Maybe they can find their way if they can kind of stay a 1-loss team into I don't know, maybe a pretty high bowl game. You never know. Maybe they slide into one of those New Year's 6 games. I don't know.
True. Randy, any thoughts about this little chunk that we're talking about?
Yeah, I've got 2 for Tulane and Air Force. They like being where they are, especially Air Force is 8-0. Like it really sucks that like teams like this make a run, or like especially like UCF a few years ago, when a team like really makes a run. And then knowing that next year 12 teams are going to make a playoff, like if you're Air Force and you go 12-0 next year, you're in the playoff, right? Like if you're too late, like if you're one of those teams and you go 12-0 or you go 11-1 and you like kind of lose like a close one with somebody, decent or pretty good, there's no excuse anymore to leave out the 12-0 little guy, because why not? Just throw him up, put him at 12. Who cares? So it does suck that. Yeah, and there's those teams every year. So like this will happen, there'll be somebody kind of in this mix next year, I'm sure. But it's kind of like one of those where you wish, there's been a few teams the last few years where it's like, I wonder what would have happened. Like that UCF team was really good. And they won I'm pretty sure they hammered Auburn in that their, I guess it's not BCS game, but like what would have been a BCS game. So that kind of sucks. I like to see Kansas State ranked just because it went from they're pretty good, they might win the Big 12, and then when Mizzou beat them originally, it was so I guess they're not that good. They're frauds, whatever. I don't know, guys. Missouri might be a good team. That's my only other thoughts. I'm glad to see Kansas State back in the mix, winning football games. Be very nice to see them beat Texas this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Nope, those are good thoughts. Corey, wrap it up before we move on to the next chunk.
Yeah, and a little caveat to add on to what Randy was talking about there was that these little guys, I mean, right now in the current system, they have to do it multiple years in a row, right? For Cincinnati to make the playoffs, they had to go undefeated how many years in a row, or 1 loss. They have to build this cache of reputation to get to that level. So these guys have no hope this year of making it. But like you were saying, if they do it next year, they're in.
Think about those Boise State teams at like the late 2010s. Like one of
man.
those teams legitimately could have won it. Maybe like that team that won the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma, they could have won an actual championship.
Oh, dude, yeah, that Ian Johnson Zabransky team. Oh, they absolutely could have won something.
Even the Kellen Moore teams would have like mopped the floor
right.
with some of these Power 5 teams.
Oh yeah. My big takeaway from this chunk though is a repeated team that gets brought up on this show specifically as to how bad they are somehow being ranked number 22. Oklahoma State going from what they were the first 2 weeks to being ranked in the initial playoff ranking. I don't even know what to say. I honestly don't even know what to say right now. It's mind-boggling.
It is.
I don't think we can hate them anymore. I don't think we can hate them.
I got to be honest.
Winning football games.
Yeah, you're spot on, Corey. We kind of talked quite a bit of shit about them, and I think my words that I used for them at one point this season was I was like, yeah, they just don't do much for me. They're really not that good, and that you're right. They've kind of opened some things up, changed a lot of people's opinions, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny because Action had that whole anti-Oklahoma State week where all of his plays were, what was it? South Alabama, every single bet was South Alabama. And then we as a panel started fading Oklahoma State and started losing bets. And now all of a sudden they're ranked in the top 25. It to me, it's comedy. It's poetic justice almost. It's too funny.
There's a conspiracy theory out. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a conspiracy theory out there that Oklahoma State watched our show and watched Action fade them 5 times in a row, and they've just turned it around ever since. People are talking about it. Go ahead, Randy.
I was just going to say they were the team. I totally forgot until now that I'm looking at it. Like they were the game that in like week, I don't know, like 5 or something, that when they beat, I'm pretty sure they were the team that beat Kansas State. And that was maybe Kansas State isn't that good game. And then they've maybe not lost since then. I think they've won every game since. So
right.
I don't know. But yeah, they were awful. Those first, they looked genuinely pathetic the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's funny you bring that up. Yeah, because the narrative for Kansas State after Mizzou especially was played bad rivalry game, blah 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 this, blah 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 that. And those 3 teams have kind of been tied to each other's success. And 1 week one team will be good, the other one's bad, and really all 3 of them are playing some pretty decent football right now.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well said, gentlemen. Let's go let's go 14-7 now, and then we'll talk about the 6 after that. So 14 through 7. Number 14, we got the LSU Tigers coming in. 13, Louisville. Number 12, maybe he wants them higher. I don't know. We'll ask him in a second. Missouri, number 12. Penn State 11, Ole Miss 10, Oklahoma 8. Alabama 7 and Alabama 8, Texas 7. Randy, I'd be remiss if I didn't start with you. Your Tigers ranked number 12 right now. Do you think they should be higher? Do you think they're just right there? What are your thoughts?
I think that's just right because they're in the spot where, they're 7-1. That loss to LSU. I think we can all probably agree that if LSU doesn't lose that, and it could be totally wrong on this. I actually don't even know why I assumed that, but in my head, if LSU wins that game against Ole Miss, they're probably like number 4, number 5 right now. Like they're right there in the playoff mix. I think they're that good. I'm very excited for that game this weekend. I like that. I mean, I was fine with us being where Missouri's like 14th in the regular polls. I was okay with that because really, what can you say? It's you had a tough loss against a good LSU team. You led most of the game, kind of just blew it at the end. You beat Kansas State. There's nothing super crazy. The games that you were kind of supposed to take care of business, you did. You hammer South Carolina, you hammer Kentucky, especially after going down one of the worst quarters, the worst quarter of the year was that first quarter against Kentucky for Missouri. It looked like, oh my God, we're going 6-6 again after, it's all happening. And so, I mean, being at 12, that was pretty surprising for me, but I think that kind of says that the committee's hey, in terms of who's got, the realest chance of making a playoff, LSU doesn't necessarily control their own destiny. whereas a Missouri does. Like if Missouri beats Georgia and Missouri wins, they beat Florida, Tennessee, Arkansas, and win the SEC championship, like you cannot not put them in the playoff. Obviously, a lot of things have to happen, but like LSU could win every game the rest of the year and not make the playoff because there's 3 undefeated teams and the other one lost 1 game. Like it's so I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it doesn't in that same vein, it doesn't really matter, I guess, what the ranking is. I like seeing, we haven't been ranked all that much in the last like 6-7 years. So very happy to just be like, yeah, we are one of the top 15 teams in the country, and there's not really anything anyone can say about it. But yeah, I mean, it just, if you're gonna do something, like the whole thing going into this year is we should be pretty good. Like feels like it's right there. Do we have a quarterback? Last year the defense was great. We lost every single game besides Tennessee by 6 points or less. And the whole thing was we don't have a quarterback who can throw the ball 25 yards down the field. The day the season ended, Brady Cook has surgery on his shoulder because he had a torn labrum in week 1. So it's like, well, so no wonder he couldn't throw the ball down the field. Right. He didn't have a shoulder. It just wasn't there. So there was a lot of questions going into this year where it was just like, well, if we knew, if Brady Cook is good, or if Sam Horn, like whoever we brought in, 5 quarterbacks or whatever it is. So it was like, they're probably a quarterback away from being a really solid team. Now, did I expect Brady Cook to look this good? No, I thought he would be pretty decent. I didn't think he'd look like this, but I think it's kind of a testament to Drinkwitz the last couple of years. Like when he's made like a big time mistake, he like goes over the top to make sure that he doesn't do that mistake again. So for instance, last year with Georgia, Missouri was trying to, like, there were multiple times in that game where they were like passing on 3rd down when they were blowing the lead, where you could have just, 3rd and 5. I know you want to get the first and try to like put it on ice, but just run the ball. And then there's literally 45 more seconds that Georgia doesn't have the ball. Like they were kind of trying to push it against that team, who is probably one of the best teams in college football history. They were trying to push it on him. Like, so he had mistakes like that, or the whole thing with calling the plays. Like we just made some really just boneheaded, dumbass decisions. And that happened for the last couple of years. So he goes out and he gets, we get a new offensive coordinator who put up, 43 points a game at Fresno State. And now when we get a lead, like South Carolina the other day, they go up, 24-0 or 24-3 in the first half. They didn't even think about trying to run offense in the second half. Basically, it was just, let's just run the ball. Let's just do low screen passes, keep everybody healthy, run the ball, get out of here. Like, this is over. They can't come back on us. Our defense is too good. So I don't know. I mean, it's really cool to see, like, believing that Drink was kind of the guy, or is kind of the guy, and can he learn? Can he get better? And it feels like, yeah, he's making all the right. He's kind of moved into the CEO type. You can't teach recruiting, so he can recruit. So when you find a guy that can recruit, you kind of got to keep him and hope you can make him a CEO and bring in some good coordinators and a lot of good people around him to ensure that you're successful. He seems to be doing that, and he seems to be, we're recruiting better than we ever have. Our best recruiting class ever the last 3 years. Going to have it again next year. Have the top 2 player in the country coming in, and on the defensive line. So it's just, I'm excited. Like the thing is, it felt like this, maybe like if this was going to happen, it was maybe going to be next year. Like maybe next year was the year that you make a run. So now unfortunately, now that we're here, and it's like, oh my God, if you can do it on Saturday, like it's just, you're in control. So the whole thing was always, if you're ever going to do this, if you're ever going to win the division, and for the foreseeable future, while Kirby Smart's at Georgia, it runs through Athens. So the fact that we're just in a position where Mizzou might go out and get destroyed on Saturday. I don't think they will, but the fact that they're in a position where they can go into that game and say, like, they view themselves as equal and say, this is for first place in the SEC East. This is to control your own destiny. The next 2 games you play at home, and then Arkansas, like, I'll respect Arkansas if Mizzou's 10-1 and I need to, but I don't know. I'm very happy that we're actually in a position where this game like means that. And so, I can't complain about that under any circumstance, because we could be 7-1 and be ranked 25 right now. And it doesn't matter. Like if we beat Georgia, it doesn't matter, right? Because 11-1 team in the SEC championship, like if you do that, you're in.
1,000%, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you start in the rankings. A one-loss SEC team is always in, like no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
And
so
and I think you make a good point that I don't know if really any of us expected Brady Cook to be this good, but he's a stud, man. And obviously it's going to be a tough task traveling to Athens. It would be a tough task for anybody. But the kid's got some cojones, and you know what? If you show up this week and you make some crazy things happen, to me, it feels like Georgia has some susceptibility compared to the past 2 years. I don't think, this Georgia team is as good as last year's team or, the years before. Like I said, it's going to be a tough task, but you never know, man. If you get hot and you kind of just pop them right in the mouth to start the game off, you might be able to kind of catch them off guard, put them on their heels, and then you turn into a little bit of a shootout. We'll see. It all just depends if that Mizzou offense can get through on Georgia, because if they can, Georgia's offense isn't like that dominant to me where you couldn't keep up. If you can, move the ball on them, this could be back and forth, I think. So.
Yeah, I think two things here. I think where you're sitting at, it's just that really good feeling of having a seat at the table, knowing that you have a chance, and knowing that you're in a position to where people have to look at you. Like that's always a great feeling. And then you've officially reached that threshold where it's the hope that kills you.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just like people, the way I look at it is and this is probably not a healthy way to look at it, is nobody respects Mizzou anyways. So if Mizzou goes and wins a game, it's that team wasn't that good. If Mizzou loses, it's Mizzou. Like it. So I really don't care. Like any team I see in the SEC or anywhere, like if you just immediately my thoughts on if they're like, Mizzou's playing so and so, I'm like, oh yeah, I hate them. I don't care about them. I don't respect them. Which is like kind of a bit, but like a little bit of it is true, because I see like all of the schools, like it is nice having the seat at the table where it's just like, what can anybody else say right now? In the sense that like a Tennessee fan, the Kentucky fans, like they're the ones that are, Mizzou doesn't belong, like SEC, but like the only teams that have been to the SEC championship more than Mizzou since Mizzou's joined are Alabama, Georgia, Florida. That's it. There's nobody else has been there as many times or more than Mizzou. Now I know it's the divisions, and like if LSU was in the East, like they probably have a couple, right? Like in that mix or whatever. But like I don't ever, when I just see it, I'm like, oh yeah, none of these teams, like the Tennessee fans, they're sitting there at 6-2 at 17, and they're literally probably like, I can't believe Mizzou's over LSU right now. It's like, okay, well, you like, I don't know. I just the people that always have something to say about Missouri are always the ones from the schools who like genuinely haven't, like they like have their it's our year for about 6 weeks every single year, and then the coach gets fired after they lose to Mizzou. So like it makes no difference to me. Like I go week by week anyways. I know that Mizzou might win 5 games next year. I don't think they will. I think Mizzou's going to be very good, and they have a very favorable schedule for the most part next year. But like Mizzou went 6-6 the last like 3 years, and a lot of those years they blew games down the stretch, like just little things here and there where it's like, yeah, that can happen in Missouri. That can happen anytime. Like in Georgia, if that happens to you, you're gone. I'm okay with not being Georgia. I'm okay with not being Alabama. I don't want to be those schools. It's fun for me that when a year like this happens, that like this, like these 2 months have just been amazing. Like you're just every week you're like, oh my God, I get to watch my team this Saturday. Like, and it matters. Like we're not playing at 11 a.m. on SEC Network every single week. Like that's awesome. So yeah, I'm just going to ride it. And if we win, great. I'm obviously much more emotionally invested in it than how I'm saying it right now. Like I'm going to be completely crushed if we don't win on Saturday. But the whole point is just that it's like, yeah, being in that seat, being at the table, that's all I need. Like I know Like, I'm fine with it. Like, if Georgia loses, their whole thing is like it's national championship or bust. I couldn't imagine like if my team, oh, it's just if we lose, like the season's over. Like that sucks. Mizzou won like 6 games last year. And in that Georgia game, it was like, this is gonna be the best night in 7 years. This is awesome. Like, who cares? We had 2 wins at that point. Like so it's just where we can get them, I'll take them. I don't care how we get it. I don't care if I could flip a switch and every team in the SEC would go 0-12 and Mizzou would go 12-0, I'd flip that switch right now. But that's not going to happen. So where Mizzou can get their wins, fine by me. I'll take it. I'm going to talk my shit either way. If we lose, it doesn't matter. If we win, I'm going to be a problem. I'm probably going to get banned from Twitter if Mizzou wins on Saturday.
As you should, man. If that game turns out in your favor, you deserve your flowers for sure. You and all Missouri.
A lot of bookmark tweets.
What's the spread on that right now? Just out of curiosity.
15.5 is the last time I saw it, I think.
It opened crazy. Yeah, like 17 or 17.5, something like that. But
yeah,
that's coming off of like Georgia. I mean, Georgia hammered Florida and Kentucky. And like, I personally don't think Florida's any good. So every time there's a result against Florida and somebody like gets a big bump in their ratings, or, like, they're like, oh, that was an impressive win. Yeah, I guess. But do we think Georgia is like becoming Georgia again because they hammered Florida, who South Carolina put up 40 on?
Yeah, that's fair. South Carolina was pretty bad this year.
That is fair. No, that's well said, Randy. I'm glad you were able to share your thoughts with us on that. I don't have as much to say about Oklahoma because people forget I'm an Oklahoma fan too. People do tend to forget that, but I will say I talked with PG, the other Kota Capper at the network that's an Oklahoma fan. I'm pleasantly surprised that Oklahoma's in the top 10 after that loss to Kansas. I really kind of would have expected them to be about where Missouri is at that 12 or 11 spot. But I do think the committee looks at Oklahoma in a number of different ways. First of all, they do respect Dillon Gabriel and how good of a season he's having so far, how well that offense is produced. And excuse me, up until that Kansas game, how good that defense has been. They beat the number 7 ranked team, Texas. They haven't had some as good of games, but they're looking at it like as an overall picture. They had one like really, really bad game that cost them a win, but as a whole, they're a top 10 team, which I like and I respect that. Now, as a fan, do I think they should have been top 10? No. Like I said, I would have rather had seen them be like at the 11-12, kind of where Missouri and those teams are. But I'm happy to see him at 9. I know PG's happy to see him at 9. But I was pleasantly surprised, especially after that loss to Kansas. Now, had they not lost to Kansas, I'd see them maybe in that 6 or 7 range. But I think that loss really did knock them down quite a bit.
No, I would agree with that take, Kyle. I don't know if I would say they're probably a top 10 team right now because you're right after that loss. But I think that the reason that they got that is when we talk about point differential. Oklahoma is still, I want to say, top 5. They're still way up there, even when you include that loss to Kansas. An impressive win over Texas, obviously, early in the year. But the big thing, to me, and the trend that you'll notice if you look at any of these top 6, even above all of those, a lot of point differential. Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon's up there, Georgia. I mean, these are teams that, when they win, they're winning by a large margin. And that's something that Oklahoma has done this year. So although they did lose to Kansas, and that was a tough loss, when they have been winning, they've been doing it in a dominant fashion. And I think that's a trend that if you're trying to kind of predict your CFP picks, if you're doing some futures out there, keep that in mind. I would say point differential is a good way to measure it, if a team can maintain success. They're not just stringing together a couple, close wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's a metric they use for that. It's like game control or something. I think it's like FBI game control.
Probably
basically how big of a lead you get to, how long you hold that lead. Where you like if you were losing the whole game and then you eke it out at the end, you're not going to have a good rating on that. But if you take the lead, hold the lead, and build the lead, then that ranking goes through the roof. And I think point differential is obviously a big part of that, but it also goes with the game flow. So I think overall, that's what you're looking at. And all those one-loss teams have good losses. Like there's not a one-loss team on there really that has like a super bad loss. They're all very respectable losses. So I don't think Oklahoma's going to get dinged for losing to a good Kansas team like that, especially when they have a win against Texas.
Realistically, Kansas is going to end up winning like 9 or 10 games this year. Like there's not very many more losses on their schedule. So
right.
Like, yeah, it sucks like right now, but it was kind of best of both worlds as a Missouri fan because I never want Kansas to win anything, but I got to see Oklahoma lose. And since there was that like hour like rain delay in there, there was no like Kansas fans left. So they got this huge win in front of like 10,000 people.
True.
So it was like if they were going to do it, that was the best way for it to happen.
True.
Hey, and there's this potential for a consolation if you don't end up making the SEC title game. There's a Kansas team sitting there for bowl game potential.
Yeah, very well could happen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That team.
Corey, this chunk, you got any thoughts about it besides what me and Randy have talked about already?
Nope. No, we pretty much talked about it.
Okay, sounds good. Beast, anything to add on to this chunk at all?
As far as that top 6,
the 14 through 7.
14 through 7. No, I'm good on 14 through 7. I think I've covered everything. Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought of one random thing, and I'll have to go here in probably the next 5 minutes. But on that chunk on Ole Miss, so I know their loss that they have puts them in a really, really tricky spot. But let's say Ole Miss goes 11-1. Like, what all do they need? Like, do they need a ton to happen in front of them to get in? An 11-1 Ole Miss, no. Because there's not really like a super viable path to get into the SEC championship game, right? Like they're in a really bad spot there. It feels like with that, with the loss that they have, but I don't know. I just like, I don't think they'll go 11-1, but they're one of those teams that it's like, if Georgia loses one game, like they're obviously going to get put in front of Ole Miss, and like a one-loss non-conference, like a one-loss team that doesn't win a conference championship with how it kind of looks like things are shaking out this year, it's going to be like pretty difficult to put in, I think, unless it's like, you know, Michigan and Ohio State. They kind of seem like the prime candidates right now. Or if Georgia gets knocked off by like if Mizzou loses, then maybe they beat Mizzou, but they get knocked off by Tennessee, like something like that. They're probably ahead of them, but is there a viable path for Ole Miss?
I don't think a one-loss SEC champ ever misses a playoff.
Like I don't know. I think they can go 11-1 and not be in the SEC championship because they already lost to Bama.
Oh, in that situation,
if Bama wins out, then yeah, they won it because Bama would have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I don't know what happens if LSU beats Alabama. What happens there? Like, well, I don't even know who wins.
A little funky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. If it's a one-loss team that doesn't win their division, I don't think they're in. I think that's too big of a knock. I mean, but then that's also assuming Florida State runs the table.
Yeah, I think it's really hard if a lot of those teams that look like they could run the table do, but it could get weird that last weekend, like with the Pac-12 teams, with Ohio State, Michigan. Like, there's enough things there where I wonder if an 11-1 team that doesn't get into their conference championship somehow, if they can sneak in.
Yeah, that's a fair question to ask. But Randy, I know you got to go here really quick. Let's go through the top 6. We'll let you get your thoughts and we'll let you get out of here since I know you're a busy man, so we got to let you go on and do your busy stuff things. But let's go top 6 really quick, and we'll get Randy's thoughts and we'll get him out of here. Number 6, the highest rated one-loss team, Oregon, comes in at number 6. Washington just missed the cut for the playoff at number 5. Florida State, we're getting into the top 4 now. Florida State coming in at 4, Michigan at 3, Georgia at 2, and Ohio State is your college football playoff 1. Randy, we'll let you get your thoughts, and then you can get out of here. But overall thoughts in the top 6?
I think it's fine for me. I think I kind of think that having Oregon at 6, like, it kind of feels like the conversation I'm seeing around that is everybody thinks Oregon's better than Washington, even though Washington beat them like 2 weeks ago or whenever that was, which is fine. Like, it's hard for me to say this as a Mizzou fan because obviously we'll say that Mizzou is, but like after that LSU game, I was like, damn, it felt like we were better than them, or it felt like we were just as good as them. So I think that ranking for Oregon makes it like it's going to be hard for Oregon to drop another one anywhere between now and a potential championship game. I don't know who's going to beat Florida State. I think they're going to run the table. Ohio State, Michigan, I'm very interested to see what happens because just like barring either of them dropping to someone, like do they put them both in again? Like if one, goes undefeated and the other one, their only loss is to them, assuming it's a reasonably close game, how are they not going to include both of them unless you have undefeated Washington, undefeated Florida State, undefeated Georgia, undefeated winner of Ohio State, Michigan? It's probably the only way that both of those two teams don't make it if one of them runs the table and one goes 11-1, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I think they put it in an undefeated conference champion over a one loss.
Yeah, for sure. If they all go undefeated, there's no way if four teams go undefeated. But
and I think the key there is the Ohio State Michigan thing, because if those teams both run the table going into that final weekend and their only losses to each other, I think that the quality of loss there is going to trump Oregon's loss to Washington.
Yeah, I guess so. Because like if Washington goes undefeated too, we're looking at the same situation where Oregon loses to Washington like literally 30 seconds left in the game. Like it'll be interesting. I think we're very primed for like, obviously it'll even out a little bit. There'll be teams that lose games we don't expect them to down the stretch, whatever. But just looking at it right now, like and maybe it's like this every year, and I'm just like wanting to think this because Missouri's in the top 15. But like, there's so many teams that feels like anybody can lose to anybody, sort of. Like it feels wide open this year in a way where usually there's like one or two teams that it's like, yeah, they're going to kill everyone. Doesn't really matter in the end. And I know like a TCU got in last year, but like it does feel like any of these teams, basically, I would probably say even to LSU in the right circumstance, like any one of those teams could be in the playoff. And that's very exciting with 4 games left.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on here about how the parity is through the roof this year versus, the last handful of years. And I will say this, talking on that point, I do think that there is a chance where if Michigan loses to Ohio State, Michigan's not in. And my argument for that is going to be because they really haven't, at that point, they will have beaten Penn State and who else? And Oregon will have had a higher number of quality wins than Michigan at that point. So I could see a one-loss Oregon jumping a one-loss Michigan.
I would agree with that. If Washington does it and goes undefeated the rest of the way, I don't see why not.
Yeah. I actually, to kind of comment on that specific argument, I don't think it's a surprise to any of us from a Big Ten standpoint. I don't really think the Big Ten's very good outside of Michigan.
I think it's very top heavy.
I think there's a massive drop off. So when you look at every single team Michigan's played so far, the best quarterback Michigan has faced so far is probably maybe, like, we've had this conversation a couple times.
Harburg, probably
Harburg. Maybe if you talked about Gavin Wimsatt at Rutgers, but like we're really bottom of the barrel talking here. So if Michigan was to lose to Ohio State, people would be like, well, that's a really quality loss. But like you just said, I mean, Oregon would have a loss to Washington and they'd have wins over USC and they'd have to beat Oregon State as well at the end of the season.
And that would win over Utah.
Two quality
They'd
wins.
have a pretty stacked resume at that point.
Yeah, I think that resume would trump beating a bunch of Big Ten teams, including even just Penn State. Like, still Penn State, I'd actually probably put, they're probably at the same ranking. Yeah, you're right. That resume would be better. I don't know this year if they could get away with, a one-loss Big Ten team. making it in if that was to kind of happen between Michigan and Ohio State. I don't think it'll fit this year if all the other teams were to win out and have one loss. I don't think the Big Ten's good enough to give you a good enough resume. And that's kind of a shame because that's kind of on the Big Ten. We just kind of stink this year.
Yep. As fans of the Big Ten, that's facts. Before we go on to Beast and Corey, Randy, I know you got to go. Just really quick, 30 seconds. Why can Missouri beat Georgia this weekend?
The defense is finally coming around. Pretty solid defense. I'm not sold on Georgia's offense. Georgia's biggest offensive performances have come against, I think, Kentucky and Florida, two teams who I don't think are that special. I think they looked a little bit better early on than they actually are. Mizzou has a potent offense. Like if they get it going, I think it's obviously hard to say. I could look like a moron, I guess, if Mizzou goes out and gets destroyed. But I think if it's a shootout, I think Mizzou wins in a shootout. My main takeaway though is that I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but the kid who's the quarterback at Georgia, the Snapchat of him that leaked where he sent that girl. I was sitting at a bar with my friends when that popped up on my timeline. And the second it came on my phone, I just turned it around to everybody and I said, we're going to win the SEC East. This guy's not winning the SEC. It was just, listen, say what you want about alpha dogs, whatever. The way he phrased what he said in that Snapchat, that guy's not a champion. And if you're going to be the champion, you got to beat Mizzou right now. So this is their game, right? Like obviously they have a pretty tough schedule the next few weeks, but like you don't beat Mizzou, you're not going the SEC championship game. So mixing that with what I saw in that Snapchat, that's not a guy that's beating the Missouri Tigers this weekend. And my only other thought, which has nothing to do with Mizzou, is that back on the Michigan thing, if you need to cheat to beat, if you feel like you need to cheat against a Rutgers or a Minnesota or whoever, or Nebraska, if you feel like you need to cheat to beat them, you should be banned from college football to begin with. So if you're a Michigan and you think you need to cheat to beat Rutgers, you shouldn't be in the playoff. I don't care how many who you beat. That should be a disqualifying factor.
Yeah. Nope.
Well Mizzou in a shootout, 2013 repeat. We're going 41-26.
Okay.
Let's
go Tigers.
You heard it here first. Well, Randy,
Two picks for I was gonna say 2 picks for Carson Beck.
There we go.
All right. You heard it here first. Well, Randy, I tell you what, it was great having you on. We'll get you on again. I tell you what, if Missouri wins next week, there's an open invitation to come on just for the first 5 minutes of the show to talk your shit. So we'll give you that. But thanks for coming on. We're glad we were able to talk playoff with you, and let's try to get you back on again soon. We really enjoyed the conversation.
For sure. Anytime. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. See you, buddy.
Yep.
All right, Beast, we'll go to you. What are your thoughts about the top 6?
Big thing I think obviously everybody's going to note is Michigan coming in at number 3. But it shouldn't be that much of a surprise when we really kind of start breaking it down because they don't have any quality wins, really. It's as simple as that. Ohio State, when you look at from a resume standpoint, it's better. You have a win over Penn State. You have a win over Notre Dame. It shouldn't shock anybody that they have gotten that number 1. I think everybody wants to look at how much Michigan has dominated teams, and whether you believe Michigan's better or not, the way that the CFP rankings go is what have you done for me lately? And Ohio State has shown us that they're the better of those teams. But kind of touching on the whole Oregon thing, that's really the only other thought I have. I think Oregon is for real. I think if that game was at Oregon, they would have beaten Washington. I think that they had a very impressive performance still to come back in that game and really could have tied that game and forced OT. Obviously, we saw that field goal, at the end of the game, but very close to forcing overtime and taking that, and who knows what would have happened. A couple of us, I believe, were on Oregon spread for that. So I think Oregon's solid. I think Oregon's going to beat USC. I think they're going to run the table the rest of the year and beat Oregon State. And I think they are going to be that one-loss team, and they're going to be knocking on the door to try to get in the CFP. Unless you got a couple undefeated teams, I think their resume is going to be strong enough at the end of the year. And when I talk about the whole point differential thing, they're right up there. They have been dominating teams. So if everybody wants to talk about Michigan dominating teams, you got to acknowledge that Oregon has also been dominating teams. Outside of that Washington game, they've looked really good, and they beat the snot out of Utah last week at Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like what I've seen out of the Ducks this year.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I have a take that's not going to make me popular with the great fans in Michigan, but I personally think they should have been 5. I think Ohio State and Georgia they got it right. I think Ohio State being 1 is the correct because they beat a really solid Notre Dame. They beat a really solid Penn State. I think having Ohio State at 1 is correct. I think Georgia at 2 is correct because they say Georgia hasn't played many people either. They played Tennessee and they kicked the shit out of Tennessee. So like they're a solid team, and I think deserve to be at 2. Call me biased if you want because I've been talking my shit about Florida State. I think Florida State should have been 3. You beat a really solid LSU team this year. You beat Clemson at Clemson. And they beat Duke on the road as well. Those are 3 solid, and like, there's not many offenses in college football that's as electric as they're being right now. Jordan Travis is playing really, really solid. Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman have been really solid 1-2 receivers on the outside. And that Florida State defense is really solid as well. They held Jaden Daniels in check in their game that they played against them. Cade Klubnik didn't have that very good of a game. Riley Leonard didn't have that very good of a game. That Florida State defense is for real. So I think having Michigan above them is ridiculous. And I'd put Washington ahead of Michigan myself too, because Washington beat a really, really solid Oregon team. And I talk about electric offenses as well. Like Michael Penix is leading the college football in passing this year. Roma Odunze is about as good a wide receiver as you can expect in college football. And that defense is solid as well. Washington has played a better schedule and has more quality wins than a Michigan team, which is why I'd leave Michigan at 5. I don't think that's a unfair thing to say because that'd be 4 different conference leaders in the top. I think that's a disrespect to Washington that for the schedule that they played, how good they've been, to be left outside with a Michigan team who, like we said, who's their best win? Nebraska, Rutgers? Like, I think that's just disrespectful. So in my personal opinion, I think Oregon at 6 is right. I think you got to have a 1-loss team below the undefeated. I agree with that. But I think Michigan should have been 5 myself. I think that's where the committee got it wrong, because I think Michigan should have gone to 5 and Florida State and Washington should have gone up 1 spot. So I guess that's just my overall thoughts.
What do you think, Corey?
What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, no, dude, you're going on.
What the hell happened there? You were just like,
I have no idea.
That's all.
you were frozen.
Finally froze for the first time. I had bad internet for the first time. Let's go.
We made it 11 episodes without having anybody pause in the middle of speaking, but that's right. Corey, what are your thoughts about the top 6?
No, I'm right there with you. I know that Michigan has been in dominant form, but it's the quality of competition there, and you can't really hold it against Washington that they scheduled Boise State and they scheduled a road game to Michigan State and East Lansing. Like those 2 games should be tough games. It's not their fault that this is the year where it's not as tough. No disrespect, Beast. It's just you schedule those games like Nebraska scheduled Tennessee 10 years ago, and they play them in 2 years from now. You can't predict what they're going to be. So I think Washington's resume is easily better than what Michigan's resume is. And Florida State's is right there alongside Washington's. I think Michigan on the eye test, however you want to say it, what they like to call it, they look like, the best team in the country. But when you look at the resume itself and break down the quality of competition and the strength of schedule, they're definitely not top 2, and they probably should be 4th or 5th.
Yeah. And
Right.
I think we're all kind of on the same aspect. I will say, though, like, before we kind of go off this and we get into our snake draft, say, like, Ohio State makes the playoff and Washington makes the playoff. That Rose Bowl game between Michigan and Oregon, whoo, that's going to be a fun Rose Bowl game if that's what it ends up being.
I think so,
dude.
too.
And just think about that contrast in style and everything. Oh, that would be fun.
Right. I mean, and it's to not disrespect Michigan like too much. You know, obviously it's very easy for me as a Michigan State guy to really pile on Michigan. But Corey's right. Like from an eye test, they do look dominant. And I do think when they get that game against Penn State, when they get that game against Ohio State, if I had to put my money down, I do think they probably are going to beat Penn State, and they're going to probably beat them by 10 plus, maybe 2 scores. And we'll see with Ohio State. They're getting them at the big house. Wouldn't be shocked if it happens. I don't think it's 100% just eye test, but when we talk about where we're at currently in the CFP rankings, it is that what have you done for me lately? And you haven't had the same resume. At the end of the year, when we have to kind of settle all of this, you might have a better resume. But right now, your best win is Nebraska, essentially, you know.
And I think it's a good point to make too that you mentioned, Beast. It is the first release. So
Yeah.
lots of stuff can happen. There's still a lot of time between, we got rivalry week still, we got the conference championships and stuff like that. Like this is just the first release, but this is just like a good snapshot on what the committee is looking for. So I just think that's something that's worth being talked about. And as you can tell, like sorry, Corey, didn't mean to interrupt you, but before you go, it just shows how much the committee respects the Big Ten when you have 2 undefeated Big Ten teams over an undefeated Pac-12 team. It just shows how much the committee respects the Big Ten more than the Pac-12 maybe. But Corey, do you have a thought? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I am always and forever always will be anti-college football playoff committee. So I just need to get that out there. This is their rendition of what shit they threw at a wall and saw what stuck. This is what they valued this week. Next week, they're going to value different things. And it's the same show every single year. Until we get rid of the committee, it's going to be the same thing. They valued strength of wins and point differential this week. Next week, they're going to value quality losses. You don't know what you're going to get out of this committee. And that's why I hate them. I hate them. I don't use hate very, very often. And I know it's a strong word and I shouldn't feel that way, but unless there is a procedure and valid information, objective things that they're looking at that are actually listed, and we can see what the measuring sticks are for their rankings, I'm always going to be anti-playoff committee because that's what they do. They literally, on a weekly basis, they take different talking points, pretend it's shit, throw it at a wall, see what sticks, and then they come out with a ranking out of it. So this is their week's rendition. This is what they valued this week.
And I think the 12 team is going to kind of negate that a little bit because 6 are guaranteed locked in, whereas the other 6 are chosen by the committee. So like, for example, like if the playoffs like go off right now. So right now, Florida State, Ohio State, Washington, Texas, and who am I missing? What conference? And Georgia. And Georgia, those 5 would guarantee to get in. Then whoever has the best record for the group of 5 team, which right now is Tulane, they would get in. And then the next 6 would be decided by the committee. I think that's going to negate that a little bit, which is why I'm looking forward to the 12-team playoff. But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks. That was a good conversation, gentlemen. Let's transition now to the Week 10 snake draft, the staple of our show. We got 3 of us today on the panel. Obviously, like I said, with Halloween and scheduling, it just kind of is what it is. So we got 3 of us on the panel. We're going to give you 15 different picks among 5 different types of bets. So everybody in the panel must have on their team a full game spread, a full game over under, a money line. All those via our friends at Better Edge, by the way. Shout out again to Better Edge. A team total and a first half play. First half play can be anything under the sun. I don't want to, but we probably really should go through the standings for last week. Actually, I'm happy for one person. Corey did get his first snake draft win of the year with a 3-2 plus 7.48 unit day. Action finished second with a 2-3 minus 1.8 unit day. Thomas finished third with a 1-4 minus 5.45 unit day. I finished fourth with a 1-4 minus 9 unit day. And our dear friend VFC, for his first guest appearance, went 0-5 minus 15 units, unfortunately. So He has told me he's going to redeem himself. So year to date, we're 108, 101, and 1, hitting at a 52% clip. We are down units after that week, but I don't think that's indicative of how we've been as a panel, because before that happened, we were up 9, almost 10 units. So I think it was just a bad week. So don't look at that minus 13 units and think that's indicative of this panel, because it was just a really, really bad week. And I think the panel going into the show even said that we hated the board for the week. So again, not an excuse, but we will be better, and Corey will continue to be as good as he was. So we're looking forward to it. We did do the order before the show started, and I will be going first. Corey will be going second, and Beast will be going third. Beast will then have the back-to-back, so he'll start round 2, go back to Corey and me, and we'll just keep going like a snake draft. So, gentlemen, if we're ready, let's get this thing started. I have the first pick. I'm not used to that. Kind of used to being like the second or third. Actually, any position but first I've been. So I got to look at my team, and I think I'm going to go with a spread here. And I'm going to go with a spread that might surprise people, it might not. But I'm going to take Jacksonville State plus 14 against South Carolina this week. And this is the battle of the Gamecocks being played this weekend. Jacksonville State is their first season in the FBS ranks. They've been FCS all their entire year. They're 7-2 on the year. Their only losses have come to Coastal Carolina and Liberty, that is undefeated on the year. And they should be playing James Madison, because those are two teams that should be in a bowl game that won't be because the NCAA ranks. So those bastards of the NCAA are ruining an opportunity for two teams that deserve to play. So I think JMU and Jacksonville State should just have a bowl game just to spite the NCAA. But I digress. What better way to top off their first year in the FBS than play a really solid South Carolina team on the road, close, and maybe even beat them? And I think there's a very good possibility this happens here. I'm willing to venture a guess that it's going to be a very close contest, and they've been playing solid all year. And I think that South Carolina is going to be sleepwalking. So with the number 1 overall pick, I'm taking Jacksonville State plus 14.
Bold. It makes you nervous, because those are those ones where you're like, this team has been good and they should keep up. You just hope that going on the road that they can do it. But they got some spunk, but it makes you nervous, because those are plays like I love taking plays like that. But it just makes you nervous. You're like, I hope they show up to the big stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But all right, sounds good. Corey, will go to you with your first round play. And I'm going to be willing to venture a guess on what it's going to be, but.
Well, yeah, go ahead and guess, because you know what it is.
Nebraska, Michigan State, first half under.
Yeah. Vegas.
Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your spunk, but I just kind of figured that's what it was.
No, you're right. And you're spot on. Vegas is getting keen on this line, though. And now it's down to 16.5. That's the lowest that first half line's been all year. But we ride. But this is a classic unders matchup in the Big Ten anyways. Michigan State struggles to throw the ball efficiently. They've got a really good running back. Their defense struggles to stop the ball efficiently through the air. They have a good run defense. Nebraska is literally the same matchup. Struggles to throw the ball, good running attack, great against the run. And if they're going to give up anything on defense, it's going to be through the air. So unless the weather is inclement, like that Rutgers-Michigan State game, and we have some crazy special teams turnovers or just bad turnovers in general, this screams a 10-7 type of game.
No, it's spot on. I think it's going to be nasty too. It's there's actually flurries of snow right now where I'm at in Michigan, and I'm only about an hour-ish away from East Lansing. So wouldn't be shocked if you had some under 40-degree weather this weekend, and that's tough to get the ball moving if you're not ready for it, you know.
Well, and as long as it's not rain, like as long as it's not, if it's snow, I can handle that. If it's cold, I can handle that, because those two things turn that game and put it into a phone booth, which just helps with the under. It's the rain with the punts and stuff, just like what happened with Rutgers, Michigan State. That's the only thing that worries me. Nebraska muffed a punt last week because of 30-mile-an-hour winds. So dude, I would love a cold game. I just don't give me any rain, please.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you got for a line on that, Corey?
The under 16.5, I wrote it down, or actually it's right here. First half, minus 122. No, plus 102.
Oh, it's plus money for you. Wow. Okay.
Plus 102. I told you, Vegas is getting keen on me.
They must. But okay. Sounds good. I can willing to bet what your second round play is going to be, but I won't steal your thunder at all. But Beast, you do have back-to-back picks. We'll start with your first round play worth 5 units here.
First round, I'm going to go, game we talked about already plenty, but I'm going to go Georgia and Mizzou. I'm going to go over 56 points here. Georgia, number 8 in the country in scoring. Obviously, we know they've been piling it on teams at 39.4 points per game. But Missouri, too. Hey, they got a top 20 offense. No matter how you cut it, they're top 20 in scoring, 33.7 points per game themselves. Yes. Does Georgia have a solid defense? Of course they do. But I think Missouri is going to be able to give us enough. And I do think Georgia's offense is just going to continue to do what they've been doing. It feels like Carson Beck's kind of finally starting to get into a little bit of a groove. Obviously, a lot of smack to be talked about him, but he's not a bad quarterback. And they just have so many pieces and talent with Georgia that I think Georgia could put up a ton of points. And I hope Mizzou can keep up. But even if they can't, I think they can put up enough. 56 is just low to me. So I think this one goes up into the 60s. So that's going to be my first play. And then we're going to go to we like our first half overs. I'm going to go to Wisconsin and Indiana first half over 22.5 points. Disgustingly low. That is just one of those ugly numbers, similar to probably the one we just talked to Corey about with Michigan and or Michigan State and Nebraska. But this is another one of those Big Ten very low unders, or overs, I should say. I'm going to take over 22.5. I just think Wisconsin might be able to put up like 17 to 20 themselves. Let's just say they put up 20. We're just looking for a field goal out of Indiana. And I don't think Indiana putting up 7 points, just some score of some sort, is that crazy to ask. I know these offenses aren't like dominant offenses, but Indiana, man, they stink. And I think they could give up enough points to Wisconsin here. It's just too low. It's just simply too low. And I can't wait to watch a 7-3 first half or something and want to throw my phone at the TV. But I do think there's a really good chance this goes over. And we're just going to trust in the process here. So that's my second play.
And what do you got for juice on that?
That is minus 115.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a Michigan State, Nebraska total, but that's still very, very low for a first half.
Yeah.
But no, and I like that Georgia, Missouri over a lot too. I think this is going to be Randy talked about it already, but I do think it's going to be a shootout. I know Georgia's defense is really solid and so is Missouri's, but I think these offenses have a lot to prove yet. So I do think that could be the case. And look what happened with Georgia. Like Georgia, people say, they haven't played anybody good, but they played Tennessee this year and kicked the shit out of them and scored 50 points. So maybe they do that again. And if they do, you just need a touchdown out of Missouri, which I think they can handle for you.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. Good back-to-backs there, Beastie. Corey, we'll go back to you now with your second round play.
All right. So does the team total have to be a full game team total?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Unless you do, you can have a team total in the first half. That's your first half play.
Okay. Well, I'm too scared to take this one. I can't do it anymore. Well, I don't know what's going on here.
Save it for honorable mentions then.
Well, no, it doesn't make any sense. I got it at 6. I looked at it. It was 16.5 before. Now it says 10.5, but it's plus 200 for under 10.5. Let me check MGM.
What the world?
Yeah, I'm looking at I was on DraftKings. Sorry.
You're good.
But I was on DK and it has team props, team total 10.5. It was at 16.5 the last time I looked at it. And now it's got plus 200 for under 10.5. And I have no idea why. It's not an alt number. It's just like the number that they're given. So give me just a second. But I believe it was 16.5. Michigan State under 16.5. I'm sorry, Beast. I have to take it. I wish it was 17.5 personally, but we're trusting the process. We're trusting the process here.
Gross. That's where I throw my challenge flag if I have one. Gross.
You do have one. You do have one. Go ahead.
I do have one.
Throw it.
Gross.
Under 16.5 minus 125.
All right, Beastie.
I hate it. No, yeah, I would throw my challenge flag here. I think both offenses are awful, but I do think there might be enough points where Michigan State could put up 17. I don't know. I mean, I know Nebraska has a defense, but I don't know if it's like extensively better than some of the other defenses they've faced, and they've put up some points. The only team that I think they've really like completely been dead against was probably Michigan. But we'll see. I don't know. 16.5, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little more confident in Michigan State this week, obviously.
Well, I'll say it this way. I'll put it this way, man. Out of all the teams that you've played, I would say that Nebraska's defense is right there with Iowa, behind Michigan, and a little bit better than Rutgers's. And you went 0, 16, and 24 points. And I think that the Rutgers thing was just kind of a product of the weather. So 16.5 is probably the right number. I wish it was 17.5. Even in a perfect weather situation, I don't think they're scoring more than 17. I don't think either team scores more than 17.
It's a low total, yeah. It's fair. It's fair.
Okay. Sounds good. No, I kind of expected that to be the second round play. That's kind of been Corey's bread and butter, but it's been working for him. So wish you the best of luck, sir. But all right, I have the back-to-back, and I'm going to start with my second round play. I'm going to go with an over-under, and I'm going to take Notre Dame and Clemson under 46. Let's look how Notre Dame has done this season against teams that are respectable. They held USC to 20 points, handily beat them. They held Ohio State to 17 points, lost on a last-second play. They held Duke to 14 points, won by a touchdown. These games are kept low, and they're low scoring, and they're kept very, very close. And I expect that to happen here. They had a bad game against Louisville. I know that's kind of what's keeping them low in the playoff, and that's why people kind of avoid their totals. But I think that was a fluke game. I really do. I think Cade Klubnik is going to be struggling against that Fighting Irish defense. I think Sam Hartman is going to have his way with Clemson a little bit, but not to the point where they score a lot of points. And I like the way that Notre Dame has been playing down the stretch following that loss to Louisville. So I think this game is kept close. I think this game is kept low scoring. So my second round play, I'm going to go Notre Dame, Clemson under 46. And then with my third round play, I'm going to go to the first half play. And this might be bold. I don't know what you guys are going to think about this, but I'm going to take Rutgers first half plus 9.5 against Ohio State at a minus 105. Ohio State, they've been playing phenomenal ball so far this season. They just came off a crazy victory against Penn State, but I think that first half is going to be a hangover game for them. I don't see them going into the halftime against a Greg Schiano-led 6-2 Scarlet Knights team leading by double digits. I just don't think that happens. I am not saying even remotely by saying that I think Rutgers is going to win, and I'm not saying that I think Ohio State's going to win by double digits. I'm not saying any of that. But I think Rutgers can keep it close enough to the point where Ohio State is not up by double digits going into halftime. So I'm going to go with my third round play. I'm going to take Rutgers first half plus 9.5. I can get that on Caesars at a minus 105.
Dude, I love that play. I absolutely love that play. I don't even think it's just a first half hangover. I think it's a first 3/4 hangover. I think that's that classic, late season Big Ten matchup where you have an overpowering team that's supposed to just dominate the entire game, and they are stuck for 3/4, kind of like what Ohio State does in Bloomington every year. It's just sleepy. I think it's gonna be sleepy.
Okay, sounds good. Corey, we will go back to you then with your third round play.
I didn't get to do this last week, and I'm so excited to get to do this again this week. We're gonna take the LSU Bama over 60.5.
Wow. Okay.
Hey. They hit the over against Army by themselves.
That's true.
True.
So I did it that week, and everybody laughed at it. And I think both of these teams are good to score at least 28 points each, and all we need is 32 from the other side, or 33 from the other side. So I think somebody's scoring 30 something. 60 is probably a good number, 60.5, and it's LSU overs. They're undefeated this year.
That's fair. Again, you're doing stuff that works for you, and I respect the hell out of it. And yeah, LSU's defense just has not been good.
No, and I think that offense is good enough to score some points against Bama too.
Yeah, agreed. But okay, sounds good. Beast, we will go to you now. We got back-to-back picks. We'll go to your third round play worth 3 units.
Trying to determine which one I prefer the more out of my 3 unit versus 2 unit, but I think I'm going to take UCF over 31.5 as a team total. And that's at -115. We just love our guy, John Reese Plumlee. I think this UCF offense is electric when he's at the helm. Obviously, we saw it when that first game back when he played against Oklahoma. They put a little scare into Oklahoma for a minute, and they kept up in that game. At a lot of times, he's a much different quarterback, and I know Cincinnati has had some success at times, but I don't think defensively they're anything to worry about, and I think UCF really lays this on. The fact that UCF is 3.5-point favorites on the road should be telling enough. So if you're feeling a little bit nervous about taking a 3.5-point spread on the road, maybe just hit their team total. I wouldn't be shocked if they covered, the spread and hit the team total, but I'm going to take over 31.5. I think they could probably put up 35 plus in this game. So that's a really good look. This is a Cincinnati team. Like I said, they've had some impressive, games, but they're still 2-6 at the end of the day, man. That's my 3 unit play. For my 2 unit play, I'm going to go to TCU. I'm going to take TCU +3. I know Chandler Morris is probably still going to be out. It sounds like he's going to be out for a little bit longer. But whether it's Chandler Morris or whether it's this Hoover kid, I think they can win this game. I would not be shocked if they went to Texas Tech and won this game. Texas Tech doesn't impress me any more than TCU would. They've lost 2 in a row themselves. This does not feel like a game where TCU is truly 3 points worse than Texas Tech. And I know Hoover is not Chandler Morris, but he's actually been able to move the ball at times. I think they could do something here. And you're giving me a full 3 points in a game where I think these teams are relatively even. I'm going to take the Frogs all day. And I think well-coached team, obviously, as we all know. So I think they're going to move into Texas Tech this week. And, hey, they might even pull off the upset. So.
Okay. Sounds good. I love it. Really quick, I missed it on that UCF team total over. What did you say you got that for Juice?
That one is -115.
115. Okay, sounds good. No, I absolutely, I can't believe I didn't have that on my card myself. I love that play a lot. And yeah, TCU Texas Tech is just going to be a shootout. It just depends on what team is hot that particular day, because it's +3. It almost should be closer to a pick 'em, I think, because I just think these two teams are just so even. So
yeah.
But
and that's a Thursday game too for those listening out there. So that's going to be a fun one because we don't always get Thursday games, and then a Thursday game that it's a high total. It's just touching 60. So should be, like Kyle said, a shootout on a Thursday night. It's going to be a blast.
Nothing better than, and this show is being dropped on Wednesday too, so this will be dropped just in time for you to get your bet in. So shout out to our guy Pace for getting it out on Wednesday. We appreciate that. Okay, sounds good. Nope, I love those 2 plays there, BC. Corey, we'll go to you with your 4th round play worth 2 units.
Well, I know you're gonna like this one, Kyle. Actually, I've been looking at all the spreads in the Big Ten and trying to figure out where I could snipe something at, and I keep seeing that Rutgers +19.
Okay, yeah,
that's a lot of points. It's in Piscataway. I think Ohio State is due for a hangover. And I like that Rutgers defense. I like that Rutgers defense, and I like that Rutgers running game. I think that's enough to chew enough clock, slow the game down enough, and keep the score close enough to cover 19. That's basically what I'm going off of there.
I thought you were gonna mush me for a second and go Iowa. I really did. I'm like, you motherfucker. But no, I like Rutgers +19.
No, hey, I have played an Iowa spread, but it was for Iowa to cover and it worked. So
Thought you were going to say team total unders.
I already played a team total under. I can't.
No. Well, no, I thought you said I made a bet on Iowa, and I said, oh, was it a team total under? Which would be cash, mind you. I'm surprised not many people on the panel have done that.
No, I bet the Iowa spread. I think it was in the Iowa State game.
Oh,
Remember?
yeah, you did. That's right.
Spread to
Yeah,
cover
you
it.
did.
So I try to play it objectively, Kyle. I'm not trying to wish cast my hate onto anybody.
I can't bet Nebraska to return the favor because you always take the Nebraska plays. So I just don't get the opportunity to do that.
I saw that Minnesota game and I saw how slow they are in the first half, and I saw that defense, and I'm riding this train. I don't know how long I can ride this train for. It's gonna bite me in the ass eventually, but I'm not stopping until it does.
You've been on a heater lately, so I would sure hope that you keep this trend up. But just off that Rutgers play, I would be pretty shocked if Ohio State won by 3 touchdowns. I just think, like we said, it's a massive hangover game for them. I think Greg Schiano's been absolutely phenomenal with the Rutgers team, who most of us thought would be probably in the bottom of the Big Ten this year, and they're bowl eligible.
Yeah,
So,
they already got to 6 wins, and one of the Rutgers stats too that's been noticeable is their time of possession, because they're trying to run the ball and they're just trying to slow the game down, get it over with as fast as possible, and keep the ball out of the other team's hands. And if they do that, they're covering 19.
Yep. Nope, good play. I like that a lot. All right, gentlemen. So I have my turn now to end round 4 and start round 5. I got a doozy for you, and if it works, I wish you the best of luck. I'm going Hawaii money line at a plus 179 against Nevada. This game is going to suck. I promise you, this is going to be nowhere on any TV, any remotely close to any place I'm at. This game is going to suck. However, bettors are going to look at Nevada and see that Nevada's won their last 2 games, and all of a sudden, maybe they got a rhythm going. But as the great Lee Corso said, not so fast, my friends, because Hawaii has a QB by the name of Braden Schrager, who's in the top 10 in the NCAA in passing yards with 2,564 and has 20 passing touchdowns. Nevada on the year has given up 277 passing yards per game, which is the 12th worst in college football. 84% of the public right now is betting on Nevada, and the line has not moved. I love the Rainbow Warriors here. Give me Chimichang. I like Hawaii money line at a plus 179.
I'm having shades of late night soup Saturday, dude.
It's gonna be a fun one.
It's a 3:00 game actually, because it's in Nevada. It's at Nevada, so it's a 3:00 game. This one.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a fun one though to get on, just from that's a big number, and I think Hawaii could do it, man. They seem to play kind of up in some of these spots, I would say.
Yep. All right. Now to end the draft for me, start round 5. Corey, I kind of stole your thunder on one of your plays, so I'll let you have the opportunity here. I need a team total here. Where do you think I'm going to go?
Probably Northwestern.
Come on, man. I play the same team total every week. We're going to the game being played tonight for Maction. Kent State. Team total under 16.5 at a plus 105. This has been my bread and butter pick all season long. I can get it at plus money this year. This offense stinks. They are worse than Iowa offensively. They're scoring 8.9 points per game, dead last in college football. And that's sad considering their only win this year, they scored 38. And they're still scoring 8.9 points per game. They're also dead last in college football with 230 total yards of offense per game. I know they're playing Akron, who stinks just as bad as they do, but I will never look at Kent State and think, oh, that team's going to score offensively this year. They will not. I'm ending my draft with my bread and butter pick. Kent State team total under 16.5 at a plus 105 on Caesars.
Like it. I like that a lot.
It's my team total pretty much every week, and that's why it's actually being released on Wednesday so people can get the play in, because it's just been money for me. And yeah, I know Akron stinks, but Kent State stinks worse. So
good assessment.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is where I'm going to go. And okay, sounds good. Corey, you need a money line. Where are you going?
I'm going to. People might not like this, and that's okay. I don't care. The chaos starts this week, fellas. Washington's going to go down. I'm going to take USC money line at plus 142.
Whoa. Okay.
Like that a lot.
Let the chaos begin, baby. This is why we fucking love this sport, right? This is why we watch. This is exactly why we watch. USC has no business beating Washington, but they're gonna. How pissed off are they right now? And Washington's been slipping the last few weeks, right?
Fair.
You know,
This is at USC, right?
Yeah, it's a night game. I mean, it's not. USC and UCLA don't really have great night atmospheres, and it's going to be really pathetic for the Big Ten when they have to put that on TV when they come to the conference. But it is in the Coliseum at night. So I don't know. This just feels like one of those situations where USC lost to two good teams. And they're better than losing 4 games this year. Like they're better than that. So they have to start winning against some good teams. And Washington's been kind of slipping lately. This just screams the upset, really, the chaos. This is where it happens.
And yeah, like you said, they lost the one to Notre Dame. They lost to Utah. They damn near lost to Cal last week. They probably should have lost to Cal. So they almost dropped 3 in a row. And I think most people are going to be looking at that and say Washington's going to cakewalk. But like you said, I know it's not like a prime atmosphere anymore, but the Coliseum at night is still the Coliseum at night. So,
yep.
And you're playing a former Heisman Trophy winner. I could see that happening.
Yeah, and do we really think Michael Penix is going to go undefeated?
Fair.
Like, do we really think Washington's going to go undefeated?
It does feel like at some point they're due for it. So I'm with you. I think it's a good look just from a value perspective too.
Yeah. Home game at night, plus 142, 1 unit. I'll take that value.
I mean, when was the last time we saw an undefeated Pac-12 team going to the playoff? I know Washington was there the one year.
That's the last time.
The only other one I could think of since the playoff was the Oregon team that Mariota was on. But other than that, like, you just don't see undefeated Pac-12s anymore.
No, and I mean, I could see an undefeated Pac-12. It just wouldn't have been Washington. I'm actually still surprised Washington beat Oregon. I thought if there was going to be an undefeated team, it was Oregon.
True.
And I still think Oregon's the better team than Washington. And that's what we kind of talked about earlier tonight. Like everybody looks at those two teams and still thinks Oregon's better. Washington's going to lose this year. It's just a matter of when. And I think this is a perfect spot for it.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, I like that play. And it seems like Beast likes it too. So you got some respect out of us. But Beast, you got to round out the snake draft. Quick snake draft with only 3 of us. But you do need a money line here. Where are you going?
We gotta turn heel. We gotta turn heel at some point, man.
Let's do it.
We're gonna go MSU money line at plus 143. You know what? You gotta throw a unit on it. This line is fishy, and nobody can tell me that it's not. You got a 5-3 team, and then the team that's 2-6. Doesn't really make sense that would only be a 3-point spread. Tells me that maybe Vegas knows something, and I know we're kind of talking money lines here, but it does tell me this game might be a little bit closer than expected. I know MSU looks bad on paper when you look at that 2-6, but I don't know if they're necessarily as bad as their record shows. As we kind of talked about, they had a really good opportunity to win that Rutgers game. They also had plenty of opportunities to beat Iowa too. People forget that, and they kind of squandered that one too. They had every opportunity to win that game. They just didn't complete the job. This is going to be their last game at Spartan Stadium this year because people forget they're finishing the season at Ford Field against Penn State. So this is the last game at Spartan Stadium for many of these seniors. I think this does mean something to Michigan State to end the season off, kind of on a little bit of a higher note. A lot of things down with Michigan State as a program right now. Is this kind of your last rallying call? Maybe it is. And there's also a lot of talk too. Anybody that watched the end of that Michigan State game is a real sicko. But they put in this kid, Sam Levitt, and he went 6 of 8, looked pretty efficient when he was kind of throwing the ball around. Whether it's Hauser or whether it's this Sam Levitt kid, they have looked better than whatever that offense was with Noah Kim to start the year. And really the only other thing I would add to kind of just talk about, like I said, Nebraska's they're good, but I do think that they could struggle in a weird road spot. Everything Nebraska, has as far as their season goes is in front of them. You got Wisconsin coming up. You got Iowa coming up. Could it be a sleepy spot where you come into East Lansing for a 12 o'clock game? Could be. And the only other thing I would really mention is just there's only 12 teams in the country that have a worse turnover differential than Michigan State, and Nebraska is one of them. They are awful. Both teams awful at turning over the ball. I just don't understand it. Very much probably what kind of Corey was getting at earlier. It could be a little bit of a stink fest with some, defensive battle. So he's right. It could be where Michigan State is under 16.5 points. You might see some weird 16, 13, 13, 10. And it could be an ugly Big Ten battle. And that's what that total is telling us. So I think it's worth putting a unit on the spread at plus 143. Vegas knows something, man. It doesn't feel like a 5-3 team and a 2-6 team would have that spread. You know what I mean? So we will see. We got to put a unit on it.
All right, let's go. I'm going to stay silent. I'll let you guys cook.
No, I love this matchup. I think this is one of the underrated. It's not really technically a rivalry, but I think it has kind of developed into a little bit of a rivalry. These Michigan State Nebraska games have been electric. They've all come down to the wire. Nobody really gets blown out in them. You've got crazy comebacks. You've got questionable calls. That undefeated Michigan State team coming to Lincoln with Brandon Riley. I'm gonna say it was a legal play. I know what the review says.
Yeah.
But in the 6-3 or the 9-6 snow game in Frost's first year, I think this is that kind of matchup personally. But this game has been fun. The fucked up punt 2 years ago, that's what I'm falling back on. Is the last time we were in East Lansing, that should have absolutely been a win. And a lot of these senior leaders on this team were sophomores and freshmen playing on that team. And I think that this team has come over a hump. It's on the other side of that loser's mentality. I threw the flag purely because I'm a Nebraska fan. This does scream a spot where Michigan State finally gets that win. They've been playing teams close. I am nervous about this game. I can't guarantee a win. Nebraska should win, in my opinion, mainly because of defense, but we do turn the ball over a lot. So, there is plenty of opportunity for Michigan State to win. I think that we've really bought into the 1-0 each week mindset. And I do think that there is a lot of frustration with some of these upperclassmen as to how the last few seasons have went. And one of the biggest games of that type of scenario and situation was that Michigan State game 2 years ago. Like that, you can't fucking punt it where there's nobody to cover it. You just can't do that. So I think Nebraska comes out with a win, and then I think maybe Maryland might get them next week. But I could see Michigan State winning. It's going to be fun. I do know this. It's going to be less than a touchdown. So I think that 3 is probably spot on.
Right. I think that, yeah, you have a really good assessment of just that Nebraska-Michigan State, rivalry in that sense. It's not necessarily a rivalry, but you're right. Seems to always be a close game. And yeah, you're right. That last time they played, that was a season where Michigan State was undefeated. They were like 5 or 6 point favorites in that game, and they damn near lost that game. You're right. They really played a game where they probably should have lost that game. I believe Jaden Reed had a punt return touchdown late in that game.
That's what I'm talking about, where they punted it completely away from their coverage.
Yep. And so it's like without that play, Michigan State, doesn't win that game. That was a very crazy game. I remember watching that. I was out of state when that happened, but yeah, just that's the kind of stuff that happens in this game. So I wouldn't be shocked if you saw some kind of weird, type of stuff, but that spread, just like I said, it just doesn't make sense. It feels like one of those games where a lot of people are going to hammer that -3, and then they're going to be like, why was this game so close? It doesn't appear like it should. It's like, well, actually, these teams aren't that far apart, you know, if you start diving into some of those numbers. And like you said, from a matchup perspective, each unit kind of matches up pretty well with each other. It's a pretty even matchup, although their records don't show it, you know?
Yeah, I think that this is going to come down to a couple crazy plays at the end, and it's just going to come down to who makes it. And I will say this: I know it's not an official rivalry. I know that most Big Ten fans probably wouldn't even be on the radar, but I know Michigan State fans noticed it, and I know Nebraska fans have noticed it. And I can promise you this: it became a little bit of a rivalry to us the day Shalik Calhoun threw a punch. I will not forget.
MSU legend.
I will not. I will that since that day, there's been a bad taste in our mouth when it comes to Michigan State Spartans. And every game since then has just been an instant classic. So I fully expect another instant classic. It's going to be an underrated matchup. Most people aren't going to watch it, but it's going to be worth watching.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment, man.
Yeah. Nope. Well said, gentlemen. Best of luck to you both this weekend with that game. I know the group chat will be going wild, I'm sure, but I look forward to it. Boys, let's go through our teams really quick. Let's list some honorable mentions, and then we'll get to upsets and locks. Kyle's team: Jacksonville State plus 14, Notre Dame Clemson under 46, Rutgers first half plus 9.5 at a minus 105, Hawaii money line at plus 179, and Kent State team total under 16.5 at a plus 105. Corey's team, we got Nebraska, Michigan State, first half under 16.5 at a plus 102. Michigan State team total under 16.5 at a minus 125. LSU, Alabama over 60.5. Rutgers plus 19. USC money line at a plus 142. Beast team, Georgia, Missouri over 56. Wisconsin, Indiana, first half over 22.5 at a minus 115. UCF team total over 31.5 at a minus 115. TCU plus 3, and Michigan State money line at a plus 143. So Corey, really quick, honorable mentions. Any you got?
Yeah, dude. There's so this board is really weird. Vegas is getting smart to the Big Ten when it comes to point totals, and it's getting a little bit more difficult. But there were a couple honorable mentions that I found. One of them, it's kind of a little bit in contrary to one of Beast's picks, but I just couldn't stop looking at this line. It was Indiana team total under 16.5. It
does feel high.
Yeah. Like, yes, you're right. I think that the full game over could hit and the first half over could hit, but I really don't think Indiana's scoring 17 points.
Yeah, I'm relying on Wisconsin for a lot of that. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah, or I'm sorry, I got to do it. A trick play first play of the game.
Yeah, could happen.
Yeah, but the full game team total under there for Indiana, that one's weird. Another weird one is West Virginia's kind of been struggling lately, and BYU's plus 10. I know it's a night game in Morgantown. I know B Russ doesn't want to hear me say it, but that could be closer than what that spread says. So that one I found a little bit interesting. And then Illinois, Minnesota screams an under. It's at 41.5. It's not one of these crazy mid 30s. So I kind of like the opportunity there for Illinois, Minnesota under. And then if you're feeling super sicko, Iowa Northwestern under, obviously.
I mean, that could very well be the play.
It could be, and it could be no sweat play. You never know.
But also at the same time, like, Brian knows he's going to be gone next year. So one or two things can happen for Brian Ferentz. He could either say, fuck it, let's just run whatever the heck we want. And Iowa's offense could look pretty decent. Or he could say, fans piss me off, I'm going to really tank this team. And he's going to do everything predictable. One of those two things could happen. So
man's job was on the line, and he still did what was predictable. So I'm going to just venture to say he keeps doing the same thing.
But I'm saying more predictable, Corey. Like, everybody knows it's run, pass, but like run to the left, run to the right, 2-yard pass.
Yeah. I just don't think he's going to change his stripes. I think if he was going to, it would have started at the beginning of the year.
Fair enough. Beast, what any honorable mentions you got that weren't mentioned?
Definitely a play that I'm probably going to end up putting in, but it didn't make my team, is Akron and Kent State under 38.5. Very much what Kyle talked about. talk about Wednesday Maction. Sometimes Maction gets a little out of hand. You get a lot of points. I don't think this is going to be that one. I think this is going to be an ugly, nasty matchup. In that game, I believe it's being played at Akron, and the weather is probably going to be relatively cold. You'd think probably a little bit of a nasty Maction game on a Wednesday. I just neither one of these offenses does much. So I think you got to plug in and kind of just take that under there. So that would probably be my only play that was close to making the team, but didn't end up making the lineup.
Fair. I had a couple that I have one that I'm saving for my lock that I'm not going to mention, but a couple I have here. I think LSU beats Alabama. I like LSU money line at a plus 174. I know that LSU's defense is skeptical, but I think that Jaden Daniels, it's hard to convince me that there's any QB in the country right now that's playing better ball than he is. And they have two solid outside wide receivers, Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas Jr. I think it's going to be a shootout. And I think LSU, if it is a shootout, is going to win that shootout. And I know the game's in Tuscaloosa, but I just think that this is going to be another letdown spot for Alabama here. So I'm going to take LSU money line. I think that could very well be the play. And then the other game I had, UCLA, Arizona, under 53.5, I think is a good play. I know it's a Pac-12 after dark game. We're kind of big on the after dark like overs, but UCLA defense is the top 10 defense in the country this year. They're allowing only 16.1 points per game. Arizona, they're also solid defensively, only allowing 23.6 points per game. I think it'd be a fun matchup between Dante Moore and either, Fafita or Delora, who ends up starting that game. But I just think it's going to be very, very close. So I'm going to go with the under 53.5 as well. And I want your guys' opinion about a play here, because I know I talked about it a little bit in the group chat, but USC Washington's over under is 76.5. Now, normally, hear me out. Before this whole rule change thing, I see an over under that high. I absolutely am taking the over. But with the current rules right now, that's so many points. That is so many points. 76.5. That is so many points.
Got to be the equivalence of like 83.5 before the rule change, 84 even.
Probably, yeah. The way that I would play that, and I know this is going to sound like very, I don't know, nerdy or kind of goofy, but I would wait and try to see what everybody else is going to play on that game, and then I would probably fade. Like, try to check out gambling Twitter, whatever hashtags you're looking around at, see what people are playing on that game. And obviously, if you guys have Action Network, or honestly, most of the sports books are now doing it too, where they'll show you the spread and they'll also, or the bets placed and the handle as far as money placed. Like I know FanDuel does do that now in a couple of the other books. If you can see those percentages, I think this would be one where you fade it, because it's going to be such a highly bet game that if you could fade that over under, maybe that is the under, maybe it is the over. We'll see. But that's how I would play it. I know that kind of seems a little nerdy, but it's probably the way I would do it.
Oh, that's definitely the smart way to do
it. Right.
And it made me think about it. And I know Soup talked about it in the group chat, but like, I think this was like a week or two before Corey joined the show because B-Rest left. There was an over-under we talked about with Alabama and Ole Miss that was at 81. And I think 5 out of the 6 of us on the panel had the over. And Ole Miss's first drive went 7 minutes. Yeah. Like that over-under died in the first quarter.
Such a heartbreaker. And that's all it takes when you have a total that high, is one team to have a really long stalling drive that turns up no points, like a missed field goal to cap it off. Ugh, hate to see it.
But I mean, it was go ahead.
I was gonna say that's why I'd rather bet a super low under than a super high over.
Fair.
Personally, because even that one play or that one moment in a super low under, you can still save it. But in a super high over, you have that one drive or that missed field goal after, a 6-minute drive. You're just like, oh no, now I need pick sixes and punt returns and all the craziness.
But it was funny because, like I said, me, Pace, DJ, Soup, and B-Rest were all in this over, and we almost group sent it. which if you guys watched the first season of the show, Group Sends went over, but Dan took a spread, so it ended up saving us. But still, that over-under just died. And it was just so depressing, like B said too, because like when you're a football fanatic like we are, you want points. So 80 points, it's like a 40 to 40 game. And that's what you want. And just like the first drive went 7 minutes and it was just dead. But I was just curious on what you guys thought. I'm not playing it because I just don't know what to play on it. So I'm just going to stay away from it. Now, if this new rule change didn't happen, you bet your ass I'm betting the over. It might have been a first round play for me. But with this new rule change, it's just not going to happen. But all right, boys. Well, let's move on to upsets and locks, and we'll call her a show here. So, upset of the week. How the upset of the week works is you have to find an underdog of at least 7 points via our lines on Better Edge, and that upset has to win outright to get you a win. Current standings right now: Corey is in 5th with 1. Me, Thomas, and Beast are tied for 2nd with 2. Thomas did have his ups of the week last week hit. He did pick North Carolina State over Clemson, and Action is in the lead by 2 right now. He has 4 upsets of the week picks. So, gentlemen, let's go to our upset of the week. And Corey, we will start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to stand in solidarity with our buddy Randy Vision. I'm going to take Missouri. MIZZO.
Wow. Okay.
You. That's strictly for the vibes. No, Missouri is. I faded them last week when they played South Carolina, or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, and they easily covered that spread. So I'm actually buying a little bit into the Missouri hype. I probably will play 15.5, to be perfectly honest, personally. But sprinkle a little bit on a money line at plus 490. I'll take that type of value.
Okay. Sounds good. BC, we'll go to you. What do you got with your upset of the week?
We're going to take Maryland to upset Penn State and end all this madness. Yeah, I think game's at Maryland, so you're going to get them at home. And I think we could see it, man. I think Maryland's got a little spunk. I know they've lost a couple in a row, so they're probably everybody's, once again, another one of these overlooking spots. You know, Penn State's eyes are on Michigan right now. And I think that they might get a little too overeager and forget that, hey, Maryland can play, man. They've got an offense. Obviously, we've seen them, do some things. And Maryland is just one of those teams. I feel like they're in a lot of games with like these Ohio States, Michigan many years. I believe Michigan they gave a scare to last year. And obviously we talked about Michigan being so good last year. They were a CFP team. They had some nice looks. So maybe they can put a scare into Penn State and maybe pull off an upset. You never know. You get into a late game in Maryland, those fans are going to be going wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
People forget too that like the team that Maryland circled as their rival when they came into the conference was Penn State. Those games get really chippy. They don't like each other. And my only thing about it is this is November Maryland. Even we saw September Maryland, we saw October Maryland. I don't know what we're going to see in November.
It's very different.
True. To wrap up upset of the weeks, the folks that are here, I talked about them spread, and I think not only do they cover the spread, I do think they win outright and top off the great season they had in their first year in the FBS. I'm taking Jacksonville State over South Carolina as my upset of the week. So it's like a plus 500 money line or something right now. It's just crazy, but I think they get it done. I really do. And really quick for the two guys that are not here, Thomas is taking Arizona State over Utah as his upset of the week. So that's where he's going to go. And Action is taking BYU is taking on West Virginia. He's taking BYU over West Virginia as his upset of the week. So that is where he is going to go. So
I like it.
That's that. All right, gentlemen, let's round up the show with locks of the week. Lock of the week is very, very simple. The lock wins, you get a point. If it doesn't, you get a loss. Current standings right now, Action is in the lead, absolutely dominating right now with an 8-1 lock of the week record. Corey not far behind him with a 6-3. Beast in third with a 3-2. I'm in fourth with a 4-5. And Thomas is in fifth with a 3-6 record. So let's go to locks of the week. I'll do Thomas first. Thomas is taking Duke minus 12.5 against Wake Forest as his lock of the week. And that is where he's going to go. For me, I saw, when doing my research, I saw a spread. Lately, anytime I use play on my card as my lock of the week, it hasn't worked out for me. So I kept it totally separate. This very well could have been a 5-unit play for me. I do like this play a lot. And I'm going Tulane first half minus 7.5 at a minus 115. They are playing East Carolina. And fellas, I know we talk about really, really bad, sucky teams in this podcast. Kent State all the time, Eastern Michigan and Western Michigan, Iowa, just a lot of bad teams we talk about. Can we take a moment and talk about East Carolina for a second? They are 1-7 on the year, and that one win is against Gardner-Webb. Like, this East Carolina team sucks. The Pirates lost to Charlotte. They lost to Charlotte. They're so bad. Now, Tulane, they've been playing very well since their only loss of the season to Ole Miss. And I don't think it's unreasonable to think that Tulane is going to go into the half up by 8 double digits against this just poverty East Carolina team. So my lock of the week, I'm going Tulane first half minus 7.5. And that is
it's wild how far East Carolina's dropped. They used to be a really tough out.
Yeah, for sure. Beastie, we'll go to you. What do you got for your lock of the week?
All right. Just like Kyle said, I thought about putting this one up into my group of plays, but I kept it separate just to build a little suspense. One of the more watched games of the week, obviously. Everybody's going to be locked in on this one on Saturday. I'm taking Bama minus 3 over LSU.
Okay.
I tell you what, this game's in Tuscaloosa. A little tongue twister there. Nick Saban's that guy. Alabama 7-1. They got their sights set on trying to make the CFP again. Got their sights set on trying to win the SEC. I think they're going to take care of business here. It's not to say LSU's bad. I think LSU is good. But they've shown me enough flaws here. I think Nick Saban's going to just go to work, do his thing. And I think we see that minus 3 get covered relatively easy. I could see a 7 to 10 point win. And even if we do get into a close game where it went to overtime, your worst case scenario, you'd push on like a 3, but you might get that 6 where you can kind of, cover and OT. But I think this game, I don't think we need OT. I think we're going to win by 4, 7, 10, something in that range.
Okay. Sounds good. Corey, wrap it up for the guys that are here. What do you got for your lock of the week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with my first round pick. I'm going to take the first half under in the Nebraska-Michigan State game.
Okay.
I just think the crazy plays that are going to decide that game are going to happen late in the fourth quarter. I think the first quarter is going to be pretty boring.
They're going to feel each other out a little that first half.
Yep. True heavyweight match.
Yeah.
True heavyweight match, indeed. All right, sounds good. And then to wrap up the show, Actions lock of the week as 8-1. He's going to the Friday night game, and he's taking Syracuse minus 2.5 against Boston College, which I love that play myself. I think that Boston College stinks big time. So I think Syracuse just needing a field goal to win by field goal. I like that a lot. So
the orange.
Yes, sir. But all right, gentlemen, this is fun. We got to talk a little college football playoffs, and that just means we're getting closer and closer to bowl season, and we might have to do something a little different for bowl season. We'll kind of talk about that as we go and see if we want to keep doing the snake draft or we want to talk about the individual bowl games. So we'll see we'll take that as we go. But right now I'm loving the snake draft, and it's been fun chopping it up with you boys, and good to talk to you as always. And that will do it for episode 11 of the Kota Capper College Football Central show. Tune in next week as we talk about the games in week 11 and we do week 10, and we do a snake draft for week 11. See you, fellas.
Have fun Saturday, Beef.
Yep.